Welcome to our presentation on the classification of fasting. Fasting can be categorized in various ways, and today we'll explore these classifications in detail. Fasting can be classified based on different criteria such as religious, political, and therapeutic purposes. Each type serves a unique role and has distinct characteristics. Therapeutic fasting can be further classified based on duration, condition, and method. It can range from short to long durations, be used for different health conditions, and involve various methods like dry, water, juice, or fruit fasting. Fasting can also be classified according to the state of health and the type of supervision required. It can be therapeutic, preventive, or for healthy individuals, and can be supervised by physicians or fasting guides. Dry fasting, or absolute fasting, restricts both food and liquid intake. There are different types of dry fasting, including intermittent, alternate, eat-stop-eat, and periodic fasting. Juice fasting involves abstaining from solid food and consuming only juices. This type of fasting helps in detoxification and healing, making the body lighter and the mind more creative. Intermittent fasting involves cycles of eating and fasting. It can be done in various ways, such as fasting for 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, or 2 days a week, each with its own benefits. Other types of intermittent fasting include alternate day fasting, weekly 24-hour fasts, meal skipping, and the warrior diet, which involves eating very little during the day and a large meal at night. Religious fasting is done for spiritual reasons, such as honoring a deity or fulfilling religious goals. It is a common practice in many religions around the world. In Jainism, Paryushana is the most important annual holy event. It involves various fasting practices and is celebrated with great devotion by followers. Fasting in Jainism aims to purify both the body and the soul. It is also done as a form of penance to atone for past actions. Prasadhapavasa involves fasting on specific days of the lunar month and giving up certain types of food. It is a practice aimed at strengthening spiritual discipline and detachment from material desires. Jain fasting includes various types such as Shovir Upvas, Tivahar Upvas, and Iyambal, each with specific rules and restrictions on food and water intake. Additional types of Jain fasting include partial fasting, Vritti Sankshep, Rasa Paradhyag, and Athai, each with unique practices and durations. In Islam, fasting, known as Sawm or Siyam, involves abstaining from food, drink, smoking, and sexual activity. It is a practice prescribed in the Quran to develop God consciousness. Fasting in Islam requires the intention to fast and adherence to certain conditions, such as avoiding eating, drinking, and sinful behavior. The exemptions are made for those who are sick, elderly, or traveling. The aim of fasting in Islam is to fulfill religious obligations, develop self-discipline, and achieve spiritual growth. It is a practice that is accountable and requires certain conditions to be met. If a fast is unintentionally broken, it must be continued for the rest of the day. Intentional breaking of the fast requires making up for it and repenting. There are specific consequences for breaking the fast through sexual intercourse. Fasting helps in overcoming desires and achieving self-control. It promotes proper limits within Islamic teachings and is essential for spiritual growth and salvation. Fasting has various health benefits, including improved sleep patterns, reduced risk of chronic diseases, and better overall health. It is also associated with healthy eating habits and increased productivity. Ramadan fasting is safe for healthy individuals if overall food and water intake is adequate. However, those with medical conditions should seek advice before fasting. Fasting usually leads to modest weight loss, but weight can return afterwards. It can be hazardous for pregnant women due to risks like inducing labor, gestational diabetes, and birth weight abnormalities. In Christianity, fasting practices include the Great Lent for 40 days, Holy Week for 7 days, Nativity fast for 40 days, and Dormition fast for 2 weeks. Additionally, Wednesdays and Fridays are also fast days throughout the year, except during fast-free periods. Christian fasting rules often include abstention from meat, fish, eggs, and milk products. Sometimes, oil and red wine are also avoided. Sexual activity is also abstained from, especially before communion. Certain periods in Christianity are designated as fast-free days, such as Bright Week, the period after the Feast of Pentecost until the Sunday of All Saints, and Theophany Day. In Methodism, fasting is seen as a work of piety and religious practice. The general rules, as outlined by John Wesley, emphasize the importance of fasting as a means of spiritual discipline and remembrance of Christ's crucifixion. Lutheran fasting, as described by Martin Luther, includes fasting on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, abstaining from meat on Fridays, and eliminating a food or activity for the entire season. Fasting is seen as a preparation for receiving communion. Other types of fasting in Christianity include the Daniel fast, LDS Church fasting, Pentecostalism's Holy Spirit-guided fasting, Moravian fasting, and Reformed Church fasting practices. Hinduism includes several fasting days such as Ekadashi, Pradosha, Purnima, Mahashivratri, and Navratri. Fasting days can also be set aside based on personal belief and favorite deity. Fasting is often used as a political tool to protest or raise awareness for a cause. Notable examples include Mahatma Gandhi, Anna Hazare, and the Kizan Andolan. Therapeutic fasting involves voluntary abstinence from food to meet the body's requirements for macro and micronutrients. It focuses on using the body's energy reserves without endangering health and includes various methods like juice fasting and abstaining from solid food.